Well, guys, welcome on into KC Happy Hour, episode number 8. We've got a couple new special guests joining us here this evening. First of all, going around the room to the guys that we do have, of course, Brandon Jarsacrack is back here joining us again. We're joined now by Race Factory owner, Super Karts USA Supernats winner, and multi-time national champ Race Liberante. Austin Osborne is here, 2019 KA SKUSA Pro Tour national champ. Ryan Norberg, of course, on the regular cast is here as well. Paulie Massimino joins us. We're missing Connor Zilish and Braden Eves. They had a pretty big weekend, especially in Braden's case over the weekend. Last weekend, had himself a couple more podiums, put himself pretty close, but he's in the Indy Pro 2000 chase. But he's off this week, so we got some new faces joining. First, Race. Austin, thank you guys for joining us this week. Race, last minute deal for you. You were over way out west and had to get back pretty early tonight.
Yeah, I was out at actually we just finished that road tax race in Grand Junction, so it was the first stop on their West Coast series to see who can win a ticket out to the Worlds this year. So came back from that and got here just in time to join you guys tonight.
And how'd the crew do? You had a couple guys out there.
That was good. Yeah, it was really good. We won mini. Had to come from the back in that, so that was a nail biter down to the end. It was really good for Gage Corn to get a win, and then finished second with Braylon Underwood and Micro. So feeling pretty good going into the last round to see if they can get themselves a ticket to the Worlds.
Sweet. Well, you're not the only one with a busy weekend here. Brandon and Paulie were over at GoPro Motorplex for some club racing. Ryan, what were you up to over the weekend?
I was in Orlando Kart Center for their little warm-up before it's the OKC Challenge, but it's kind of a warm-up for SKC. There's quite a few guys out there. Actually, I had surprising amount of senior X30 drivers. There's probably it looked like there was 12, 13 guys, which is pretty good. But yeah, just doing some coaching down there, helping out some guys, and just having some fun at the track.
Yeah, I'll be heading down your way. I think we're sitting at right at about 110 entries total for SSKC this weekend, and they're going to probably buck up to about $140. I think seniors going to look at about 15. Juniors already in pushing into the 20s, and then the mini and micro classes are looking in the mid-teens, which is good. But beyond about the racing we got coming up this weekend and everybody else that's off, let's go through what we got for news, because there was a lot that came out this week. First and foremost, the Stars Championship Series was the first series to come out this week with some new updates. We already saw the 3 major national series come out with their first set of dates for 2022, and Stars is already locked into their tracks. They're going to Newcastle in May. The GoPro night race, of how that's going to work, it's going to be a little bit different than other series that are trying to do night races, and Stars is a single main event. I don't know if they'll have some of the classes going at night. They were talking on social media a little bit about what that'll look like, or if they'll do heats under the lights and then do the main events during the day Sunday. But of course, super, super cool. And we're going to hopefully get to talk to some of the guys from the Stars series, because a lot of that crew is getting set to run the Rock Island event, since it's all under the NKA sanctioning body coming up this weekend, which Race and I are looking forward to talking a lot about. And then, of course, there were a couple other regional series that came out with their dates as well. The Texas Sprint Racing Series came out with their 2022 schedule. That March date, the 25th to the 27th, that is not confirmed, but it's all points leading to NOLA Motorsports Park to be a warm-up for the SKUSA Pro Tour. The rest of the dates for that regional series yet to be confirmed, but good on them for getting the dates out pretty early. This is probably one of the earliest years, I think, in recent memory that we've seen all of the major touring series really starting to pump out their dates quick, and now it's allowing regional series like TSRS and growing and budding, soon to be probably national series like Stars, get theirs out right after the first guys go. It's almost like pick of the litter, right? The big dogs get to set their dates out first, and everyone works around them. And then another series that came out with their dates for 2022 was WKA. Truth be told, I think everybody would be really, really happy if it was just one date. For some reason, those guys are hell-bent on losing some money by trying to put on races everywhere else. I don't understand why.
It's aggressive.
I'm serious, guys. No, truth be told, right? We're looking look at those dates of where they go and what they've been doing the last few years, right? Daytona, December's always good. They've got, right, nobody's heard of it. There is a WK race, I think in like 2 weeks, like in September, like 10th at Newcastle. And I don't.
I'll be there.
Yeah. You'll be there? What are you racing there, Paulie?
Hell no.
So you're just going to be there.
I'm just gonna be there.
See, exactly. No one even people aren't even going to their races to race. But nonetheless, I think it'd be really, honestly, what those guys need to do is just drop back down to Daytona. At this point, the touring series market's saturated. There's really not a following. So, any parents that are watching this that are trying to debate on which series to go, I would highly, highly advise you don't look at these dates or whenever the date.
Oh, yeah.
Don't. There's a lot.
Gosh.
All right, let's get on a lighter note. You're right. I should stop dragging on him.
How far are we into this? Like,
just enough.
Not far enough.
Just enough to get going. No. So let's go. There was actually some really interesting news and some rumor mills starting to come out. So again, if we take a look at what the national schedule is right now, so far what we do know, right? We do know that we're going to be going to Utah Motorsports Park, NOLA Motorsports Park, and Newcastle Motorsports Park. The entire SCUSA Pro Tour is set. What is not set is the SCUSA Winter Series. They've locked in. They said they're going to do 2 dates again, January 7th to the 9th, February 11th to the 13th. Rock Cup for the Florida Winter Tour is locked in 3 dates. Actually, I'm missing one on there. That was my mistake on a typo. But Rock Cup's going to be doing 3 Florida Winter Tours, not 2 is listed. None of those tracks have been confirmed or what they're going to do because the last 2 years, they've done 2 temporary tracks and Ocala Grand Prix, which is now closed. So if they were to replicate any schedule, they'd be a full parking lot series for 2022. But they do have some options, as does SCUSA, if they don't want to go for double Homestead again, which you'd think if they were going to do Homestead again, they'd go ahead and announce the location because whenever they've done that in years past, they have put that out very, very early on. USPKS has said that their first date is going to be in Florida. They haven't locked their date in yet. And, of course, that secondary date is supposed to be a southwestern U.S. Track or somewhere in that region. Now, that could be, when we say southwestern U.S., that could mean anything from NOLA Motorsports Park all the way over to, anywhere in Texas to way out west to where race was this weekend into Colorado to California. Do we think that the series would be that ambitious to go that far? I don't think so. I think that you're probably looking at a Texas date or maybe a NOLA date. If they don't like a Texas track, I could see them going to New Orleans. And that would be obviously, if you look at the master schedule of the main 3 2-cycle series that all the big teams go to, that would make a lot of sense for those guys because they could leave the rigs there for a couple weeks. But if they go Texas, that's not too far either because you go from a SCUSA event to a USPKS event again. But that's what we do know. And then we go to the rumor mill of what we heard so far this week. And the first thing we're going to talk about and get a little bit of everybody's reaction is Jacksonville. So this is a classic Florida karting. You can hear the groans already. Classic Florida karting track. They have been posting a little bit on social media about it. You can see on the layout here, super long straightaway. I believe at least as long, if not a little bit longer than Newcastle Motorsports Park front stretch. It's over 1,000 foot long on the front straightaway. And you can see a lot of the corners are very sweeping. The reason why the groans are in the room is whenever we take some of the faster, higher horsepower series there, with how good the karts handle nowadays, even when you go with a fast kart there, even in shifters, it's a pretty easy flowing track to get into. The only hard braking points you get are at the end of the long straightaway and then a little bit up if you're going the normal direction, which is counterclockwise. That concrete section, that right-hander 90 past the concrete section is like the only other real passing zone you get, maybe into that left 180. But that 180 is so banked, and so many of those corners are banked, it makes it really, really easy. And I know if we go there for any Winter Series events, Brandon, Ryan, Paulie, you guys are excited for qualifying with a full-speed racetrack like that, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That track is so rough and really dangerous. Unless they make some super, updates on the track, I'm not really looking forward to it. I've seen so many people crash there and hurt themselves really bad. I'm not really looking forward to that. I wanted Rock and those series to not be on parking lots, but Jacksonville is one of those where I'm like, oh well, maybe the parking lot's not so bad after all.
Brandon, what do you think? You've raced Jacksonville, probably the most recent out of everybody in this group.
Yeah, I did a few of the Winter Series races there when WK had a Winter Series. And in X30, like you said, it's a very easy track. I mean, I think you lift in maybe 2 or 3 corners out of all of them, and it takes the draft aspect to a new level, even more than what we see at Newcastle. So, I mean, qualifying would definitely be very interesting. I mean, I think you can go from being like first in pace to probably 15th if you're not in the right position for qualifying. But with all that said, though, I believe the racing would probably be pretty good there, because I don't think anyone would be able to pull away. But it'd be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, so that's where it gets really interesting, right? There's more news that have been coming out of it. So we had our show last week on August 23rd. Then we go to August 24th, right? And we take a look at what we've just got on the screen now. So that is the first post that came out from the North Florida Kart Club. Those guys saying they're going to be closed for 6 to 8 weeks due to construction projects at the racetrack. So those guys, the what's going on there is that is a track owned by the city. The North Florida Kart Club gets to operate it, but they do not own the racetrack or really control what happens. They just have exclusive rights to go there. And since it's owned by the city, anyone can practice there. And that means you don't even have to have a racing cart there. You can show – there are people who show up with Groms, show up with dune buggies. Paulie and Brandon will talk to them in a second, but they've obviously done some testing there recently as well. And their team owner, John's, done that a lot on the 206 side. Anyone could go. You could go practice for free. A lot of times when guys would go down for the WK Daytona Kart Week when things were a lot bigger, is they would go stop at Jacksonville on Wednesday or whatever be the first, like move-in day or the day before move-in day, break in their motors, and then they would go to the track, because Daytona Kart Week is a strict 3-day schedule, typically with only 1 day of practice. So if you didn't want to burn one of your 5 practice sessions, you'd go to Jacksonville on your way down, since it's in North Florida, and break it in for free because there's no practice. So what we don't know is what's going to happen, right? They've been kind of cagey about it. So the first thing was just a construction project. And that, from what we understand now, is really just about the facilities, which, to be honest, is more than needed, because those guys have been they haven't really done much with the scoring tower. It's pretty old. The bathrooms are really old, and they need to be cleaned up to host some major high-class events there. But again, we don't know. It just says construction projects for 6 to 8 weeks. A couple people were asking questions, didn't really get too many answers. The next day, they go back on Facebook again, and the North Florida Kart Club submitted a proposal to the city's request for proposal for the contract to have exclusive use of the 103rd Street Sports Complex. That's the name of the racetrack. The club's awaiting notification from the city as to who has been awarded the contract, so the city's deciding through committees, and then that comes into effect October 1st. So again, they said that for 6 to 8 weeks, tracks shut down. So that means that would go potentially into October, because they only got shut down here at the end of August. If it does go 6 to 8 weeks, wouldn't open up till November, no matter what. But they were submitting for an exclusive use contract. And again, I believe that exclusive use contract for the North Florida Kart Club, they're just looking to be the exclusive race promoter, or at least control who hosts owner kart races there. So again, that would give them access to whenever they want to still do club racing. They're not interested so much in, I believe, at least the day-to-day. Maybe they wanted to get some of those funds, but the truth is that for clubs that don't have personnel or the extra budget to full-time staff a racetrack, it's really hard to enforce fees. The track that I grew up at in Georgia, what they would do is they had just a webcam pointed at the racetrack to try and enforce them. But I mean, still, you have a lot of guys that would not buy their pass online and just risk it and just go drive on the racetrack during that day. I mean, you'd need someone to monitor it anyway. So I don't think they're interested in any of that. They're just interested in operating the races. But the important part to note there is that they're awaiting notification from the city of who's been awarded the contract, which makes it seem that there's more parties interested in doing something with Jacksonville. And that track, again, it at least checks the minimum boxes to host a big race. It has enough pit space to park everybody for a big race. It is a long enough racetrack and wide enough racetrack. It could hold a big race, which takes Anderson Race Park out, both a little bit on parking and mainly on size. Orlando Kart Center's borderline. Ryan and I talk about it all the time when he comes on here. They'd have to really get creative to make the parking work, but at least the track could work. Ocala Grand Prix is gone. Homestead is a track that checks all those boxes, but we've been going there a whole lot, and everybody gets burnt out of even good tracks like Newcastle and GoPro and visit them as much as we do. But then now when we go to, a track that tears up go-karts and gets guys' ribs a little bit hurt, people are even more burnt out about Homestead. So the track options in Florida are tight if the Winter Series are all looking to go there. And nonetheless, it's something we really don't know. That's all really, really new.
Can they even host that many people there? Because like the last time I was there was like Rock Cup in like 2015 or something, and it was like, I mean, it's good for pickup trucks and stuff to get in there, but it's all like, it's tight. It's not like, I don't think you could fit like an RPG size trailer through there easily and make it like comfortable. Like it would be a difficult trip to get it maneuvered in there and turned around and in and out. Like it seems very, very tight for it to like fit everybody.
Yeah,
It's definitely not easy we were there when I was with Kartsport, and we had our big truck and trailer, and along with like what Austin Miles just said on Facebook, the power lines are low hanging. I kind of remember us having to go on top of the trailer and hold the power lines up so that you could get the trailer underneath of it.
Sketchy.
And yeah, it was definitely very sketchy, but you could fit the big size truck and trailers in there, because I believe at the time Top Kart USA had their truck and trailer in there, and we had our big rig in there. So you can fit them, but it's definitely not the best way to get in.
Yeah, I was just there like 2 or 3 months ago. I mean, it's still like, it's all still the same pretty much. I mean, the track's pretty rough. I pretty much spun out by myself, but
That's nothing new though, Paulie. You can do that everywhere.
I don't know. It's kind of a dangerous track. Like even with the Briggs, like you get it right, you could ship someone straight over that hill, and it's like.
And there's a fence right on the exit of all these like banking. I've seen AJ Myers like total the chassis, just went off one of the banking and straight into a fence and total the chassis. And like there's somebody on my team back in like 2011 that went off at the end of the straightaway, like cartwheel, broke their collarbone, and it was like they just hit a bump on the straightaway and it just sent them off the track and into the fence. So that's my biggest thing is like you put 30 something go-karts on the racetrack and then they're just piling in at the end of the straightaway, and then you got a big crash and a lot of injuries.
Yeah,
right.
It's pretty sketchy.
Yeah, well, that's just it, right? We have stupid enough wrecks on tracks that are super safe and have runoff, and guys can still get hurt every once in a while. I mean, I don't know, Race, what do you think about these comments? You've been kind of quiet so far. You like street racing. You've been doing street racing a lot in the last few years, especially. It's been almost where you've been in the go-kart more because you've been busy at all the other shows. What do you think about Jacksonville?
So not only street racing, but we have a lot of little shitholes, for lack of a better term, in Ohio. And I mean, there's little bullring 30-second tracks that just suck. And fun for Briggs racing, but I've never personally been to Jacksonville, so I can relate maybe on the bumpy go-kart track side of it. And, you know, at the end of the day, that doesn't really bother me. We're all supposed to be pros. But at the same time, if it's unsafe, if there's fencing too close, I mean, that's a huge insurance problem already. So hopefully they can figure something out through all this construction. Maybe they're resurfacing the place. But since I'm not getting in the seat, I'll be there with my guys, and it's kind of up to them to make it work.
Yeah. So again, to talk about and give you guys, the viewers here, a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about with this racetrack, right? So again, this straightaway, super, super long. There's a lot of banking, so the speeds are really high. And that's the other part that annoys drivers typically is that it is such an easy racetrack to learn that while it's, you know, fun from like a, you know, from a fun racing aspect, from whether it's rental karts or when you go to club racing or even like regional races, because you get packed up, right? A track that requires less skill to get away. It's why the races at Ocala Grand Prix in the single speed classes are usually pretty entertaining, or we used to be obviously during the track's operation, because that was a very easy track to learn. It wasn't necessarily easy like on its own as a racetrack, but compared to the other racetracks that we go to, it was a relatively easy racetrack. Easier, let's say, than maybe, you know, Newcastle on certain layouts, or easier than, you know, Utah or stuff like that. So the same thing here, right? If you've only got really 2 or 3 braking zones, it packs everybody up. That inherently is a little bit dangerous. And then to go over the layout here, so you can see that big concrete patch. So that concrete patch, that big square, that is pit area. That's not necessarily runoff. So where the fencing gets sketchy, and the last race that Brandon and I were at that had a big wreck at, is that concrete area also has the grid. So you go down the end of the front straightaway, you have those 2 left 90-degree corners, the little kink, and then as you're coming straight on through, that fence and grid comes right up to the edge of the racetrack. That isn't runoff at all. Like the dark racetrack, on that short little chute, granted it's a flat-out section that's very wide and you don't necessarily turn the wheel. One guy had a tie rod snap where the wheel literally would not turn at the left-hand kink and plowed into the first plastic barriers, a light amount of them, and then right into the fence on the side of the grid and tore up a cart. So we've seen that. I've heard like you hear all kinds of war stories when you come back here because this track's hosted big races going back to the 70s, which again gives the idea that there's pit space and plenty of room. But the difference, like Ryan was saying, is that while there is, like Brandon said, I think probably room for big rigs. Back in the day, you saw a lot less big rig factory teams coming to Jacksonville. When we had those big North American races that would see like bigger rigs or maybe factory teams come over, it would be at like Charlotte or other places. It was never really here. This was like a WKA track that was like a club race union, a lot like the CKNA Grand Nationals are now. But that's sketchy. And then down at the end of the front stretch to the left-hand side of the picture, past the tram lines, there's maybe like, I don't know, Brandon, probably like 50 to 100 feet of maybe like runoff. And then after that, it's the highway. Like I know you stuck a leopard there in a Florida Pro Kart race a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember I went right off the edge. Luckily, there was enough runoff to not make it to the fence. But like, I remember, I believe it was Mike Geeson was telling me stories from when they used to run like stars back there or something. And he said some guy made it completely off the track and almost made it all the way to the road. So that's definitely goes into the little bit of unsafeness of the track. But hopefully no one has to deal with that if we do actually go there, and maybe they'll put some like barriers between the track and the road, and hopefully we don't have to go that far.
Well, in any case, the important part again about Jacksonville, it's under construction. We don't know what kind of construction there being. I mean, there's been rumors about guys buying the racetrack and expanding it or reconfiguring it or resurfacing it. At bare minimum, it seems like the most popular rumor right now is that there's just going to be some upgrades facility-wise, which would at least make it where it could host regional series there and would try and bid for big series. But if the big series go there, like race, I'm going to be pretty excited to not be driving and looking forward to having these guys deal with whatever goes on. But we've got some really cool stuff we want to talk about. Again, we've got a wide variety of characters. I know we haven't talked to our boy Austin Osborne here, but he is representing our KA classes as a former X30 guy. We want to talk about the top of the karting pyramid and what it should look like, and that's going to be right after the commercial break. Race Liberante, the last few years, has run shifters, but he's run everything and anything in between. He's got the most years in the sport out of all of us. And then, of course, we've got our regular guys that run X30 and KA here between Brandon, Paulie, and Ryan. So I want to kind of talk about that because it's an important point we don't really talk about too much in the sport. I think the sport's always had a number of different premier classes and touring series, but what is so important for us to talk about as we move forward is what the sport looks like into the future, at least important for us at Kart Chaser, because we want to try and continue to build the stars up and then work on different programs as well to help the grassroots series and club racing and stuff like that and make it achievable internally. So all that coming up after the break, guys. Stick with us, Casey Happy Hour. And also, again, just as we put in the comments, make sure to submit any questions in segment 3 after our second commercial break. Any of these 5, along with myself, would be happy to answer any questions you guys have, whether it's about series, rumors you heard, or just questions you might have about karting in general. Again, coming up right up after the break. At the end of the show, we'll have our Q&A, but after the break after this, we'll be talking about what we think moving forward the sport should look like.
KC Happy Hour is presented by Precision Performance Karting. PPK is the exclusive South Florida dealer for Coyote Motorsports kart racing chassis and Coyote's newest distributor. However, owner John Seglem and Coyote Motorsports' relationship spans across numerous decades in the sport, meaning that you've got years of winning expertise at your service. PPK offers trackside support at all of the CKNA South Division events, the CKNA Majors, such as the Spring Nationals and the Grand Nationals, the Sunshine State Karting Challenge, and a number of club races in the Southeast. PPK also has an impressive driver roster at these events, racking up multiple wins and podiums in 2021 with longtime Coyote Motorsports driver Chris Carroll and KC Happy Hour's own Paulie Massimino and Brandon Jarsacrack. If you're looking to get on the same race-winning equipment as these drivers, from the Coyote Motorsports chassis to the Odenthal motor mounts and Greyhound racing seats, Precision Performance Karting has you covered. Check out Precision Performance Karting on Facebook and Instagram, or email them at ppkartingfl@gmail.com.
Welcome to Ohio Kart Parts, the Midwest's largest Burrell Art racing go-kart dealer. We carry Burrell Art, Daniel Ricciardo, Charles Leclerc, and Robert Kubica branded go-karts, as well as parts from names you trust. Chassis components from Freeline, engines from Miami, Briggs & Stratton, and soon-to-be Tillotson, electronics from AIM Technologies, MG Tires, Taika Axles, seating from Tillett, Arai Helmets, and 3/10 Race Products. Visit us online at www.ohiokartparts.com, at our facility in Lorain, Ohio, or at the local track on race weekends. If we don't have it, call us at 440-628-CART. That's 5278. And we will do what we can to help you out.
KC Happy Hour is presented by Rollison Performance Group, North America's top karting team. RPG is a full-time operation that is fully focused on driver development and furthering your karting career. Each RPG team member benefits from data and coaching by multi-time national champions, including the likes of Ryan Norberg, Luke Selikin, Austin Garrison, and more. Team owner Mike Rollison is a highly decorated driver himself, and he knows what it takes to win. He brings that same culture and expertise with him at each event RPG attends, regularly being one of the first in the pit area when gates open, and one of the last to leave. RPG also offers individual and group coaching days at its home base at Pat's Acres Racing Complex in Canby, Oregon. Here, the team is able to do specialized drills and spend hours focused on different driving techniques and skills, preparing drivers to go out and dominate at the next race. Because winning isn't just done on the race weekend. It's accomplished by putting in time outside of the races as well. If you're looking to take your karting career to the next level, or if you're looking to win races, then check out Rollison Performance Group on Facebook and Instagram, as well as their official website, rollisonpg.com.
Well, guys, welcome back here after the break, and we are happy to have you guys back again with us. Like I said right before we went away, we wanted to talk to all of our top guys here and go over a little bit of a debate starter because, again, we've got a big break in the national season, which means it's time to do some bench racing. So first and foremost, again, going over everybody's background, of course, Brandon and Paulie have raced X30 and KA the most. Brian's done a handful of KA races. Austin has done a ton of X30 racing in the past. Has most recently been doing full-time KA. And Race has done just about all three types of major kart racing from 206, or actually all four if you go from 206 to X30 to KA and shifter within the last 2 years, promoting his own brand with the Race Factory organization. So moving on to that, we have a couple questions because I want to talk about it. We get these comments all the time. For example, back at the SCUSA Summer Nats, we had obviously the best shifter turnout that we have seen since the opening round, I think, of the Florida Winter Tour, and arguably just as competitive as any of the Florida Winter Tour rounds. It was better than the final round. We had 30 total pro shifters at Superkarts USA Summer Nats, which was awesome to see the Pro Tour getting back to some big shifter numbers. The downside was the way that the Pro Tour format is scheduled for us at Kart Chaser, with the videos, the way that we're doing them this year, with double main events, we don't really have the time to get 4 main events into a video. The video would either be super, super long, and on top of that, if we did make it, it would be about double the time for us to work, which means we'd get that video out the next week. So it'd be 2 or 3 weeks removed, and by that point, everyone kind of forgets about the racing. So at least that's what we figured out last year. But, you know, we post the video of the X30 stuff, which is what we've done all year, and kind of tried to focus on the same class. So there's some continuity for viewership, and guys can follow along the storylines through an entire season with drivers rather than just meeting one guy one time in a video. But you got guys, hey, man, that was an awesome shifter race, you know, a big shifter field. And honestly, the racing was really good. And at the front, from a spectator standpoint, the Saturday shifter main was by far the best of all the headline classes of the weekend, at least going down to the finish. And that was mainly helped by AJ Meyer's braking. But it was a really good race. And that's always been a little bit of my trepidation personally with the shifter class, is it being a little bit harder and not having as many top tier drivers in the class, the chance of multiple top tier drivers hitting the setup right, driving good, motor running good, and having a close battle at the end usually seems to be a little bit lower. And we've talked even in our videos with AJ and Andrew about how when they go to tracks where you have to hit first gear and bump it, like at Rock Rio or at any of these temporary tracks we've gone to so far with Rock Cup Winter Tour, it's really tough for them to stay close to another driver and have close packed up racing that's entertaining to watch. But it's arguably the hardest, if not the hardest kart to drive, right, with the extra gears and everything. And in Europe, it is by far the headline class. But over here, it's kind of split, at least on the two-stroke side. And then even then, you know, we get a lot of comments here that we focus too much on two-stroke racing or too much on X30 and shifter, because if you look at just raw numbers, KA numbers are a little bit bigger at most races, and 206 numbers end up being a little bit bigger. We've had this debate a little bit before, but I've kind of dominated some of that conversation to justify where we're at, which is we still have, I think, at least on the single speed side, the hardest fields to win in are the X30 fields, even if you only have 30 to 40 of them versus a 50 or 60 KA field. Personally, just because the top 10 or 15 are still extremely, extremely tough, whereas the top 5 to 8 KA guys, there's not as many top tier guys. There's more, a bigger field, but the competition strength is still there. So that's why we focus that on single speed. And then, like I said, for shifter racing, we try and do it wherever we can when it's a single main event weekend, but there's not enough races where it would make sense to do a full video series on it all the way through the year. And then again, 206 racing is tough to cover too, because typically at all the major events for CKNA grants is going to be a senior light, a senior medium, and a senior heavy. And some guys run all three, some run two, some run one. So you don't necessarily always end up with one class having the best way. So this is a two-pronged question for all the guys. First and foremost, right? What class should there be a single class at the top of the pyramid in karting? Because there really hasn't been in the U.S. for quite some time for everyone to go to. If there should be two, if there should be three, if it should be just the top of the age group and everyone should have it, how should it look? What should it look like right now? And then the second would be which classes would there be if you'd want to make it feed into a certain class there. So we've got our list here. We'll start with Ryan and give Ryan the first chance to kind of talk about it a little bit and give your thoughts of should the pyramid change? Should we kind of view it a certain way or should there – and like because you can get it there, right? We saw with the purse money how that can draw at IAME for GoPro. Should the sport – if you were to be king of the sport in the U.S., what would you want it to look like?
So, I mean, I guess the question would be like, what is the goal of having a premier series? Like, you know, what are we trying to accomplish? Are we wanting people to incentivize people to race this? Or is it just like we're going to go on numbers? And I think if you look at Europe, you look at like KZ is obviously that is the premier one, not KZ2. KZ, and it's not based off of numbers. Like that normally has the smallest amount of drivers. It's normally one of the smallest classes of the whole weekend. Up until like I think last year, it's normally out of the, you know, the KZ2 and then the Academy. It's one of the smallest classes. I think it is the smallest class. But it is the premier class because that's where all of the pros race. That is the guys, you know, your Boss Lammers, your Kremers. Those are the guys that we want to watch. And I think it doesn't necessarily depend on the class. I think you have to go by where is the most, what class has the best drivers and the most of them. And I think, you know, you look at X30, I think at least in the United States, it's the only class that races every single weekend. You know, you go to every series, there's always a like tag senior class, whether it's X30 or Rock GP. And with the shifter, you know, they don't run that much during the year. You have the beginning of the year, it's really packed. In the middle of the year, they kind of spread out other than like, you know, you have the NKA series, the Star series, and then like occasionally a rock race, Rock California. There's some races, but there's no national shifter series other than the Pro Tour, which again doesn't race that much. You know, that's one series. So I think the point is to incentivize people to race the premier class. You know, whether you have K or whatever, you're wanting to incentivize people to race the premier class. I think X30 Senior does that because that's where the most best drivers are. And I think it also kind of takes place over shifter because it's the only class that races every single weekend. Like you'll get those good guys at almost every race. You're not going to get that at shifter. You're not going to get the same group of guys every single race. And it's honestly, the racing's not as interesting. Like the driving and like, it's like similar to like Formula One and IndyCar. I always view it like shifter is like the Formula One where everybody's like, wow, this is cool. And we all go up to watch it. But like the racing is never like super interesting. It's like IndyCar is where it is. And like, if you want to watch a good race, you go watch IndyCar. I think that's kind of where we're at right now is like, we should incentivize people to go do the racing in the series that provides the best opportunity for that.
Fair enough. So that, I mean, that's how it is right now, right? Like, would you want to keep it then the way where we've got it? Or if you were able to, let's say, add shifter to USPKS and try to push guys to that and make that the headline, would you want to get guys shifted over to it and use X30 as a feeder?
I don't, just because I don't think that will happen. I don't think many people like I know, and probably Race can talk about it a little more because I'm not necessarily a shifter guy. But I mean, they've pushed shifter for a while and it doesn't go, you know, like other than the rock shifter, there's no like consistent shifter market where it's consistent. Like you have occasionally people that run KZs, you have the stock Hondas that are still around, you have the IAME, you know, you have like all these different engine packages and nobody is consistent on which ones they want. And so I think even if you did add it to USPKS, I don't think you're going to get that many guys. I think the majority of the guys are still going to race X30 and KA.
Fair enough. Well, Ray's here. You're the resident shifter guy. Brandon's race shifter a handful of times on regional races way back in the day, and tested and did a lot of R&D with the IMU. But you're definitely the most active and recently active shifter guy. You know, what's your viewpoint on the U.S. like pyramid and the way the classes are? And would you want to change it or push it how certain series are this year?
Well, to be honest, I agree with 90% of what Ryan just said. You know, the shifter crowd is smaller. Shifter karting has kind of been ruined over the last few years. It had a really strong presence when stock Honda was around and thriving, mainly because that could go down to your local club and you could race that through the regionals at Pro Kart Challenge and places like that, all the way up to the Pro Tour. And when that went away, I feel like the shifter market really got divided more so than the X30 market may have, because Rock GP kind of never really took off, in my opinion. Rotax has been trying on the side for a while, but in my personal opinion, I think you can spread the pro classes somewhat like they do in Europe. I mean, yeah, KZ1 is where all of the paid, at one point, factory drivers were racing, but you've still got the, you know, kind of like the Supercross format. There's the pro, or whatever you want to call the 450 class, and the lights division. They're still pros. They're still getting paid to be there, you know, but in Europe, most of those guys in OK move up to KZ eventually, kind of like we see like Antonelli doing right now. So I really like that structure, and I really feel like pro racing, if you're going to have a pro format in karting, I'm a big fan of open racing. KZ is showing right now that it's you know, it's coming back, and the guys that want to run pro at a national level are going to run KZ. That are shifter guys, but I don't think that's the right engine package to take to a club race or a regional. So I think they've got some work to do to make that its pro side of karting again. But in the meantime, the X30 program is thriving. There's a strong local open tag platform in most regions. There's a lot of regional X30 stuff. It's kind of gotten consumed with KA now, but it's definitely, you know, at a national level, USPKS and Pro Tour, in my opinion, it's definitely the premier class that does put on the most interesting racing.
And that's like another good point too, right? Talking about KZ not being a motor you can take down to the grassroots level. I think what fed X30 for the longest time to be the numbers that it were even before KA came along was that you could run California Pro Kart Challenge, you could run Route 66, would have big leopard fields, like not X30 necessarily, but even in the leopard days, right? Even in tag days, regional series still had really, really big tag fields. So in the U.S. market being a little bit smaller, I think the bigger question is, right, like, you know, should the pro motor, you know, go down to the local level? To me, I would say no, right? And I think that's the argument that I normally tell guys about 206 racing, which I think it's great that we have big races with 206 stuff. But I think if you leave your big teams in it, then you ruin the best part of it. And even like with KA Motors, Austin, you were a part of, you know, the 2019 SCUSA Pro Tour campaign, which still was the third year of KA, but it was the first year for a lot of West Coast guys to get in it. And I know you and I have talked in the past what engine programs looked like back then and what they look like now, where the KA fields have definitely gotten more competitive, you know, here in 2021 and 2022.
Yeah, I think that a lot of things changed from 2019 to this year, and everything, you know, everything in between. I think when it first came out, you know, obviously I'm a bigger driver, so I really appreciated the harder tire compound. I think that created, as a whole, it has its pros and cons. I mean, it was close in one aspect of everybody had to kind of learn something that they're not used to. You know, a lot of people coming from X30 into KA came from a soft, sticky tire. And so it kind of threw a big wrench in everybody's kind of plans to just hop in and be immediately quick. You know, it ended up working out for me, which is a big reason why I ended up winning the championship that year. And I think that on the engine side of things, that, you know, it kind of happens with everything. It's just inevitable in go-karting, is that, you know, when something first comes out, it's either, you know, the parity is really close or it's really far apart. And I really enjoyed kind of a year or two ago when you didn't have to go through 20, 25 KAs to find one that, you know, has something special. I've always said, like, when I'm looking for a motor, I never I'm never looking for something special. I just want equal, because equal just provides opportunity for anybody, right? And so it's a bit disappointing to see it's gone to more of an extreme level. Part of the reason why I stopped racing X30 is I DNF'd more than I finished. So I just straight up like wasn't having a good time anymore. And I remember coming off the track and being like, Dad, like this isn't fun anymore, bro. Like we got to go do something else. Like I'm gonna get fucking hurt, or I'm gonna get hurt out here. Like this is straight up not having a good time, right? And so then the next year, I think I took 2 years off and came back, and KA was just introduced, and it was the perfect thing. I mean, it was everybody wanted to say, oh, it's entry level. Like, oh, well, the biggest thing I got was you sucked in X30, so you chose a slower, deal. Which, it's partially in a big race standpoint, it was partially true, but those were all races I DNF'd. Anything regional that I went to, literally anywhere in the country, it was a podium. So it was mostly just crashing that halted that. But anyway, it was just the whole KA program, I think, was really good. I think the numbers show that it's that it deserves to be at least recognized. I don't know that it should be maybe any more than X30, but at least as much, in my opinion. I think that, yes, if you wanted to say that X30 has less, a fewer driver count, but the talent is more, I would agree to that to a point. I think that KA provides opportunity that for anybody between 30th and 1st to kind of be fast at any point in the weekend. X30 is a lot of that kind of deal where you have the same 5 guys, 10 guys, whatever you want to call it, like all these guys sitting here included in that. So when I go to watch an X30 race, I know who's going to be on the podium. That's, to me, is it, it's close, but if I go watch a KA race and there's 60 drivers, I think any one of those 15 can win. I mean, we see it all the time in every class, people coming from the back. I think it's only easier to come from the back because everything's so similar. I think that the better drivers shine a bit more. And I think that shows, like, and that's just speaking. I mean, I haven't won a race in like a year or something like that. So saying that the best drivers shine, right, in KA is talking about Paulie, talking about whoever else is on the Connor, whoever else is on the podium usually. And I feel like I don't know, I feel like KA is still the best parity in comparison to X30, but I do think it deserves I do think it deserves definitely at least as much respect as X30 gets.
That's interesting. I mean, Brandon, you ran, you probably more at anyone. Paulie, it's starting to do it a little bit now, right? Where you ran in your, full-time years, you ran double duty in the 100cc and 125 classes almost anywhere you could. And it was granted because there was money up for the line too, right? But what's your take on that, right? Because at least right now, if you were to look at the structure with how the series are treating them, right, they're looking at KA as kind of the lights class and X30 as your 450 as your main event class. And I think the sport can work either way, right? In American flat track racing, that's kind of made a bit of a comeback. And there's a couple good stories about it if you guys look it up, viewers or everybody here, the new promoters that have taken over that. And there is a single engine class and a twin engine class. And a lot of guys kind of go back and forth season to season and run either one. There's not necessarily one that's a headline class. You could even somewhat to a degree make the same argument with the World of Outlaws series, right? World of Outlaws is obviously known, and the name originates from the sprint cars. But Scott Bloomquist is still one bad dude, right? And the World of Outlaws, pro, super late models on dirt is still a premier series on its own right. And a lot of times they run individual events. Now, the sport's not big enough to branch guys off, but do you see KA and X30, let's branch it down, I guess, maybe a little bit before we get too far off, as equal? Or do you see them more as a lights and pro comparison like what we've seen the series kind of treat them as?
No, I definitely see – I see them as equal because you go run either class, and it's hard to win both of them, I'd say. I'd say it's a little bit more difficult to win X30 just because you got to have, everything perfect. You got to have the go-kart perfect. You got to have the motor perfect. You got to have the driver perfect. Where
Gotta have the money
KA
for
you can kind of get away with one of them not being perfect and still be able to win just based off of like racecraft, because the draft keeps you more in the race than like what X30 does. So you can just kind of beat people off of driving more in KA, I think. But I think they both should be treated equally. I don't think one should be better than the other, because it's definitely hard to win both, and you got to work hard for both to be successful.
Right. And, even in other forms of car racing, right, the ongoing debates going on. NASCAR has gone to this super high downforce, low horsepower package that is they're moving towards KA over X30 or shifter type racing. They're trying to go with a product that keeps the guys packed together more. And like you said, it's trying to balance the teams out a little bit, because the backmarker teams have a better shot at the 1.5 mile tracks, it seems, and some of the speedways beyond Daytona and Talladega. You could look at how they race at like Michigan the last few races. IndyCar's got a pretty level playing field. They don't necessarily have to do too much. And then obviously F1's got their budget cap. So they're trying to tighten the fields up from an entertainment point of view too. Because that, to me, when everyone comes and talks about like premier classes or pro classes in karting, and even like shifter, there are a lot of guys that come up and be like, man, shifter should be the class you cover, and shifter should be the class that we promote. And I think about it because ultimately where we want to get to with Kart Chaser, what we want to, I think the sport could easily get to, is to do supercross like events where we've got one, two, maybe three pro classes that ultimately end up with a main event and are spectator based. But like Ryan's saying, it's hard to sell a shifter race right now. There are good shifter races when they come up, and whether or not, if you got the same 15 X30 guys and joined the 5 or 8 front-running shifter guys, if it would be similar to X30 racing right now is a big question, because I think you really only got 5 to 6 pro shifter guys that are really, really good. I mean, race, even when you were running last year, right? It was, you knew in X30, you could say that you're running against the same 5 or 10, but you could easily have a great day. And it happened at Newcastle for a lot of guys, qualify second on Saturday and run up front and then qualify 18. Like there are like the same, like Ryan and Brandon are usually pretty good about running up front, but it backs off. But in shifter, it's even more so because there's just less guys. You ran Danny, you ran against AJ Myers, you run against Andrew when he'd be up front, Rory at that year, and then Jake French, right? And I don't know if I'm missing anyone, but it was just less guys, so it's harder to have it be tighter.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And to what Brandon said too, I mean, I think the more horsepower you put down on a racetrack, the better your setup has to be. So, like those Magic Kart guys with AJ has been dialed for 2 years. And so you're seeing that, right? They may just be on a different axle selection that's just working that much better, and we're running out of grip trying to chase them down. You know what I mean? So I think that delta difference, the gap is bigger. And that's why I love racing everything down to 206. I mean, I love 10 kart pack racing too, just as much as I love trying to set my shit up better and drive better and have the engine dialed in better than everybody else and try and walk away with something in the shifter. So the only thing, to everybody's point, I've never gotten into the X30 stuff, mainly because, I mean, I don't have, I know I can't go find that maybe half a horsepower, quarter horsepower that Ryan's got, because that team is able to go through 30 engines and I'm not. And I'm okay with that. I'll just go race KA. And, the parity's still there. I own 3 of them now. I just sold all my shifter stuff. So I'm going to go try that out for a year. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I think I'll be fine with my 3 and just work on my driving in the go-kart and have fun. But I think that's what's going to keep KA from becoming a premier class. And truthfully, I think open racing is what should be considered pro. A lot like how they do it in Europe. That's more open style racing where you can port and do some work to the engines and carburetors and things like that. And I think that's really what pros should be doing. In the spec series, I think Rotax is also an amazing package, but it should be left down at the regional level, because that's really what, to Austin's point, my comment on that is what killed KA racing is now we're racing at a national series. Now we're finding the parts that are making horsepower. We're spending the money to find those parts and that dyno time and that pipe or that whatever it is, that's going to give that engine that little bit extra. We're not searching for that kind of stuff when we go race stars, because you've got a different range of talent. When you put 15 guys that are all, almost equally as talented up against one another, now you're down to 2 other variables: the chassis, which 90% of the fields are on OTK, and It's just reality.
Yeah.
And now we're on the same engine package. So, now we're stuck with looking all at horsepower, trying to go win that race. And that's when we start seeing these discrepancies in parts on the spec level.
Right. And like, at least in Brandon's case, right, you can talk that when you're, Brandon's point's true, right? Where with KA, and like you said too, with the horsepower stuff getting dialed down, it's you can make up for that because the draft will kind of guide it or guise it. But Ryan talked about it a couple shows back. RPG is all in on the headline classes specifically. You guys do KA, and KA is a big focus. But the way that you guys got the big jump and started really hitting your stride over the summer stretch when we moved into that new X30 pipe was Alex moved over to work on just X30s, and the Ks were outsourced. And so to me, that's a point that I don't think that's a really good point you kind of alluded to, Race, is that as soon as we bring stuff to the national level and you get, guys that can, have the right circumstances where they could focus in, I think with there's plenty of guys that could be in Alex's position if all the stuff is there and find on a motor, right? If you get paid to find the best way to set up a carburetor for an X30, you're going to do the same thing in the K, and the K class gets botched a little bit. I think it's in a great window where it's at, but I think it gets even harder to win if that's where we put Ryan, that's where we put Brandon, that's where the shifter guys were to go. So as good as KA racing is, as awesome as it is, I don't know what it looks like if that's all that gets left, if the X30 stuff gets cut. I think it almost works better, at least right now in the shadow, because if it got bigger, we're going to start spending more money on it.
Well, I will say down in Texas, we have completely X-nayed any type of tag. There is none. You go any series, like I think literally only the 100 entry local has an open, and that runs Leopard, X30, and you can literally run anything that has a button on it, right? But at the regional level, I mean, we've switched. I think the first race this year there was 4 X30s entered, and they just X-nayed it. It's gone. Yeah. And they said, look, if you're going to run here, we're not going to we're not going to waste our time watching 4 go-karts go around. And there's been, I think we just like with one race left to go, I think we're averaging like 45, and that's an average KA per weekend for the Texas Sprint Series. And I know that that's the same thing in California. As far as I'm concerned, that there's, maybe 10 Leopard, X30, whatever the hell you want to, race. And I feel like in terms of being able to take that at the regional level, there's people who race at the regional level that kick my ass up and down all day, but they don't go to the national deal, and they have something special, that they necessarily didn't have to go to the national level to realize they needed to have. And like in terms of engine, in terms of like driving style, stuff like that. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've paid attention to any of the Race Hero or Race Monitor, but I mean, the races aren't that close here at home. And it kind of sucks. And a lot of those people don't even race KA at a national level. And it's really difficult because I think Race touched on it, that it should be, it started as the stepping stone and it's been taken from there. But I disagree with the point that was made of you have like it starts at the national level where people start doing all this stuff. I disagree with that because it has started. At the 50 go-kart fields in the regional stuff in Texas, and that to me is what's killing it in terms of everywhere. Because I know if it's happening here, it's happening in California where they're getting 30 or 40. It's happening in Florida. Competitiveness brings people to find that extra little bit, but it's slowly getting worse and worse. And it's kind of me and my old man were talking about it. He's like, well, if I can't win, I don't want to play anymore. I'll take my ball and go home. So it's kind of one of those deals where it's like, me personally, and I know a lot of the field doesn't have the money to go and just get 20, 25 engines. You get a rental motor and you hope that's good enough to win you the race. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. That's the issue with kind of going through hundreds of motors as builders and whatnot. And I feel like that's part of why the RPG program is good. It's part of why Perry's program is good. They have not necessarily in-house, but they have people that work specifically to try to make those 5 people really quick, and I think that shows.
Yeah.
And something that I was going to say as well is like when you look at the K numbers on the regional, I really am like happy that that's happening. Like I really like that the regional is growing. Like, not saying I'm glad that X30 is gone at the regional level, but I'm glad that it is. But again, if we're talking about like what one is the pro division, the class that's super strong at a regional, like LO206 is at a regional. They're super strong at regionals and stuff.
But it's not a pro. Right?
Yeah, it's not a pro. It is the regional series, and it's what is for building the regional guys, and that's what I'm happy is about it. It's doing its job. It's building the regional guys, and then they get kind of a platform to go race at the big stuff, and then it's like, okay, when you're finally ready and you get to that level, you got to go toe to toe with the big dogs, and that could be. I kind of agree with what Race is saying, where it's shifter or X30. You know, it kind of could go either way, like a 450 and a 250 main. You know, could be either one. But like, you gotta have the regional, which is strong, and then you get your opportunity at the big stuff, and then you got to go against the big dogs.
Yeah, well, that's a good point that Austin made too, though, right? Is that we say like national, right, or national and regional, but like you're saying, Austin, you've got national guys coming down and racing lower classes in regional. And Race, you grew up racing motocross. You know, Eli Tomac can't go to a club race and go whoop up on guys in the 450 amateur class. You know, is licensed, right? Am I right on that? Like the pros can't come down and kick them.
You could show up anywhere and kick their ass. Local pro class.
But he's allowed. He's allowed to come
like,
down there as a pro.
They're allowed to, but they don't, right?
Okay.
And that's the difference. I think that like karting right now, just now, I think in the last few years, the regional stuff has been being rebuilt. In my opinion, regional racing went to shit for a little while. Either series were going away, or you had the same national level guys spending the same national level money in a regional program, and that doesn't help grow the regional program. It helps, keep it alive. But really, the only regionals Ryan should be entering are the week, before a pro tour event to do their warm up race that they always go to, and that's cool. But really, he shouldn't be racing at Pro Kart Challenge much, right? Like his schedule should be full of nationals because he's a professional athlete. And I think that's all driven from the economics of the sport. Guys like in Ryan's position that are either, I don't know exactly what his deal is, but I'm sure all of his racing's paid for, and he's an employee of Raleigh and coaches on the side and does what he does. But those people get those positions because the economics of the sport are good down to the regional and local level racing. So growing those programs is what's going to push towards a professional side of the sport, kind of like we did have at one point with Stars of Karting. ICA was not raced at LAKC and Pro Kart Challenge. It wasn't a class. It was only reserved for Stars racing. And they still filled the fields, and everybody had their 5 engines, and that was your national level competition. But a guy that grew up racing Region 7 in California, which is where IKF was big, it wasn't a big deal for me not to be able to go to the Stars race, because we still had our national every year, which is, I think, what KA needs. I think KA racing should really be reserved for their own regional sort of deal, and then they should have their own KA 206, whatever, national, and that should be their big deal, if that makes sense, in my opinion, and leave the pro racing to the pros.
You could even create like a license system for that type deal. Like if you're a B license and you've won the KA deal, there you go. There's your A license and go to X30.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, Paulie. We haven't gotten to you yet. I apologize for that.
I was about to say, when do I get to give my opinion? I thought you forgot about me.
No, never. I mean, I figured you were fitting into the mold of never talking and staring everybody down like we normally do. So
I was just waiting for my turn.
All right, but no, go ahead. What do you think about all this?
I think obviously you have the 8 to 10 guys in the X30 that are always fast, but you always have Ryan, sometimes Brandon now, not every time, but sometimes he's up there. You got Connor, you got Cicero's now up there, you got Greenmeyer, you got all of them. But I don't know. I just feel like it's good to have the X30, so you have those guys, so they're not all going into KA every single race. And I'm pretty sure last year, I think at USPKS, nobody was a double winner in the KA. I'm pretty sure it was there was no double.
And that's how
winners.
light racing should be. You know, like a lights class, you know, should be like a wide open guys trying to make a name for themselves and get exposure. Like, again, I think the biggest thing that the sport needs, no matter what with the pyramid, is we need to do like a better job of, you know, if you're looking for the next Ryan or Brandon or Paulie or, you know, or Race or Austin or whoever, right? The teams hope, I shouldn't say like knocking the teams for not doing it right now, but there should be some kind of incentive or help program, just like with the Bro Dindy, to pull guys up from the slower horsepower classes or lower horsepower classes, because usually they are running that and not all of them have the budget to jump up. Some guys do and can jump up on their own, but it would be an awesome environment if we had it a lot like bigger industries and racing do, where you know, they would pull guys up from KA. Like your you know, a kid would go and perform and win a couple KA nationals, and he'd get an opportunity to go race more X30 racing. But like Austin said, I think kicking the X30 guys out of KA is not a bad thing anyway. So
No, I don't know. I like going back to it sometimes when I'm doing double duty. I get to enjoy KA. I don't really have to, like, obviously I have to focus, but it's not as stressful. We can miss something on the cart, like Brandon said, and I can still like manage how to drive, still be up there with them. If it's get to the lead and block the whole race, you know, something like that. But
That's how you get put in the wall.
yeah, or you hold the outside and, you know, you go through the dirt. But
all right, Paulie.
No, I think it's, I don't know. I wouldn't say that the top guys in pro should be able to race every single race, but like, obviously, like when we go to GoPro or something like that, I jump in the K, try to have some fun, and I don't know. You keep it like that and have it spread out, and then once you get like when I first moved up to senior, I jumped straight into the X30, and I wasn't anywhere near where I am today, but then I went back down to the K for a year, and I still wasn't winning that much in the K or whatnot, but even running where I was running in the K, I still learned a lot. And then when I came back to X30, it was like I was a different driver, just because it lower horsepower, you have to kind of drive a little bit smarter and stuff like that. Not saying I'm a smart driver, but it definitely helped me a little bit.
See, but that's kind of the other problem. Like if we do like that license structure where like the pro drivers aren't allowed to race like club and regional levels, like where do like the pro drivers, we only get to race them the nationals? When do we get to go like practice and race besides that? You know what I mean?
But we don't practice at regional race. If we're going to race a regional race, we're just there to like test stuff, and then we like body the locals. So it's like you can't. Go out
yourself.
Well, the other thing is I was going to say, you came to GoPro and you finished third.
Well, okay, I hear you, but I'm saying if we were to go out like that for them, like, I mean, speaking from like experience, like back in the day, like the local stuff was like that was what I got all excited for. Like how we feel like a stressful weekend. That's a stressful weekend for somebody who's trying to like grow in the sport. Like, you want to win that championship. You don't want to have, like, I remember back in the day, it was super frustrating in Ocala because basically who's like finishing fourth, because it was either Austin, Kyle, Oliver, or Nick would all beat you. And so it was like, okay, who's going to finish? The race was for fifth, and it always was. And it was frustrating. Like as a local, like granted, it made me a better driver because I got to race with these guys every single weekend, but it was always like, okay, I'm just here to finish behind these guys. Like, there's no reason to race nationally because I can't beat them here. So why would I go beat them there? Like, so it was, it's not, I think that we shouldn't be racing locals other than like a test weekend. Like, and that I think works because it's like you get the stars to come in to your home track every once in a while, and that's good. But like, to be racing like a PKC or like an SSKC is not good for somebody. Like, I think it's bad for the sport. You just are you're just picking wins at this point.
Yeah, and again, go ahead, Paul.
I mean, I race a GoPro club, but like sometimes, you know, I show up an hour before. Sometimes I show up 10 minutes before. It's just I kind of just enjoy it. Like I don't have to like really stress about anything. If we lose, we lose. We walk away and my dad's still yelling at me, but I'm still smiling no matter what.
Dude, I think that shit's more stressful going to a local and like knowing that if the local beats you, like they're just gonna talk shit for the next month and a half until you come back and try and go again.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
that's
then
why I
it's
stopped
like,
racing them.
then you don't like. I mean,
Can't lose if you don't enter.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
at the GoPro Club, there's some pretty good competition that like comes around in the KA.
I would say the GoPro Club is not an example of clubs across America. I
That's
think
true.
the GoPro
thing
Club
with
is a
Texas.
lot.
That's
Yeah,
a
it's a
regional.
lot.
50
That's a
go-karts,
Southeast
it's
regional
not,
is what
yeah.
that series is right there.
Yeah,
So
that's definitely higher than a local race. That's a pretty hard series to
Yeah.
race at.
But
Yeah,
Austin's
right.
point about like the money thing is the biggest thing too, right? Like when you have national level drivers, a lot of time the national level budgets come behind them, whether it's from sponsorship or their own money too. So it's both. And unlike in like, to a degree in motocross and to a degree in certain other types of racing where you can make up for a lack of horsepower or not having the best equipment, it's a lot tougher to do that on asphalt racing in general. And it's still somewhat possible in road course racing, but it's tougher. So, but it's I don't know. It's good points, and if we could get the sport a little bigger, where like if you take out the national guys from a regional right now, that regional is not big enough to stand on its own, like Race is saying. But if it gets to that point again, where we can have it where, we don't need the extra national guys to fill the field, I think that'd be awesome to kind of keep doing how we're doing and restrict it more, like start kicking Paulie out of GoPro Club races. But he gets kicked out on its own, or is on the verge of it anyway, right, Brandon?
I'm not a dirty
That's
driver.
true.
Like I don't know why people get mad at
But
me.
we can't keep him from running club races. It helps me.
Fair enough. Well, we're gonna go to
Brand-
commercial. I'm interrupting you again, Paulie.
It's fine.
Now, man, go ahead.
No, but no. it just
Commercial
helps me.
3, go.
We like to
Commercial.
have fun.
Run it.
I'm just gonna
Run
keep it there. All right, you can go now.
We'll be right back after this and answer you guys' questions before we wrap up the show. Again, keep submitting those questions on Facebook or YouTube. We'll throw them on the screen. Thank you guys for tuning in. Casey, happy hour. A little bit longer and extended episode tonight with our guests, Race Liberante and Austin Osborne. We'll keep them on to answer the questions as we wrap up episode 8.
I'm Billy Vincent, owner of MPG Motorsports. What we do at MPG is we try to keep it a nice, fun family atmosphere, try to combine sort of the bigger things and of the bigger teams and the professionalism down with sort of some of the fun sort of family-oriented atmosphere. We try to not only develop drivers, but also the parents and the families for just in knowledge in general in motorsports. It all starts in karting. What we try to do is try to help the drivers, the moms, the dads understand the sport of motorsports in general, not just karting, but what it takes to get all the way up through. Whether you end up wanting to be a driver or a mechanic or an engineer, we can help you with that, and that's what we're here for. If you're interested in joining us at MPG, our home base is at Whiteland Raceway Park in Indianapolis, and you can contact us at info@willpowerkart.com, and one of our great people will reach out to you, and we'll try to put the best program together.
I'm Alex Speed, the team principal here at Speed Concepts Racing. We have an elite karting program. We really focus on giving the drivers the tools they have to take to the next level. We don't really want to, it's important to win racing and go-karting, but really give the kids the tools they need to hopefully become professional racing drivers. We're on the OTK Red Speed Kart. We have our own in-house motor program with Speed Lab. We do really competitive in the national races, but again, our main focus is really giving the kids, the tools they have, looking at data, looking at video to really give them arsenal to go on to car racing and hopefully be successful.
Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/speedconceptsracing or email us at speedconceptsracing@gmail.com.
Well, all right, everyone. Let's go back through and let's see your guys' comments first and foremost. So going from the top, we've just got a couple of questions to touch on. First here, this was from Forrest Adams. So we'll toss this up to the group. And guys, we've been running long, so we got to do it kind of tight. But he asks, if you could only race one of the two major Vegas events this year, Rock Vegas or SCUSA Supernats as a micro driver, which one would it be? And no one here races micro, so I don't know if you guys got any expert inputs, but he'd like to know.
Supernats.
I would say Supernats just because that's the one. But I know the mini rock is strong, micro rock is strong, and so is I think the mini and micro Swift is also pretty strong. So either one you choose is probably going to be a good one.
All right, let's keep on going on down here. Let's see what
That's a
some
very good diplomatic answer there.
That was a very diplomatic. Yeah, that's why he is who he is. All right, let's see. From Ethan O-Ring asking about USPKS going to New Jersey. I think we started that rumor last week, Brandon, when you and I got talking about Jersey. I don't think there was any truth to that at all from Mark Coates, the series. I think you and I triggered that. So
yeah, probably. I mean, I've heard rumors from other people that I guess have been talking to Mark, but if Mark's not saying anything about it, then I guess the rumor is squashed.
It'd definitely be
I
refreshing.
definitely don't think it's happening this year.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I don't think it was in the plans for this year. I was thinking it was maybe like a 2023, but I think 2022 kind of be a little bit too soon. I think he already kind of has plans for everywhere he's going.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If we pull back up our USPKS dates really, really quickly here and take this off the screen, just taking a look at what we've got for the national schedule, right? Those USPKS dates that we have. So again, we know it's going to be in Florida for that March date. The only other open date is that April 29th to May 1st. And officially in the press release, that one says it's going to be in the southwestern U.S. So New Jersey is about as far from the southwest as you can get. I don't think we'll be going there here in 2022. But like you said, maybe 2023.
Do we know how long we're going to be going to the same 3 racetracks for SCUSA, bro?
Probably the rest of your life.
I don't know. I mean,
Like, I suck at all of them. Like, come on. Like, bro.
Let's see. Boat Boy, what are some flaws that GoPro Motorplex has? Oh, Paulie, I know you love to rag on your home track. What are some flaws of GoPro?
I don't rag on the track.
You rag on it all the time.
I just don't like the track. I mean, there's like nothing more to it. Like,
I think the biggest thing was there wasn't other configurations, but they kind of have started fixing that.
yeah, like that's kind of why I don't like it. I mean, like as they start changing it up more, maybe I like it more.
That
I hate
big
the
ass
speed
curve
bumps.
was not. Yeah, that was not
Yeah, no.
a good.
And
good boy there.
maybe something like another flaw for them is probably the pitting. Like some people got to be all the way in that gravel stuff, and it's I don't know.
They're working on it, but
they're definitely working on it
there. Yeah, I think that the new like it's not like AstroTurf, but it's like the stuff over at Millbridge Speedway, like the light like rubber pellets that they put down. I think it's okay.
I think they need a clubhouse though. Like
Clubhouse would be
Newcastle.
nice.
Yeah, they need a restaurant.
Yeah, that would be good.
Bar.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
If you just go to Dockman's pit, you might as well have a bar.
That's true. That is very true.
What they need to do is just give Chris like 3 garages and let him just design it
right.
however he
Turn
wants.
it in,
You know,
right.
He's been
bar,
trying.
grill.
He's been trying.
Just let him. Yeah. If Chris could
Nobody
get
will
3
give him up.
garages.
Every time
No,
he
we'll give him
adds
up.
something new in that garage that relates to alcohol, he sends it to me, and he's like, "Hey, do you think this would be a hit in the pits? Like, do you think like, this would work?" I'm like, fuck, dude, I don't know.
He's already on it.
I love that man.
Yeah, we hooked him up with some free Kart Chaser shirts. That's still like a drop in the bucket for how nice he is to us and
Right.
everybody. Like you
He's a
can't
good
ever
guy.
pay that guy back. He's awesome. So shout out to Chris Knockman. We love you, buddy. This question came up when we were talking about major classes, OK and OKJ in the U.S.
So
I think
You'll
this comes
never see
around
that.
every time. I don't think
You'll
you'll ever
never
see
see
it.
no,
You could just look at so as you get higher in horsepower, as you get higher in anything, right? The old saying in racing is however fast you want to go, how much money do you want to spend? I mean, when you go to open racing, you're going to have more money spent. The benefit is, like Race is kind of alluding to, in pro racing, that incentivizes the manufacturers to give out free tires to pros and free motors and stuff like that. But from the perspective of replacing X30, I don't think you'll see that. You won't see that from a politics standpoint, but even if it came in, I don't think it would stick really well.
Yeah, my opinion on that deal is, it'd be nice if that's another engine that you can do some work to, and I think that's what the pros deserve ultimately, whether it's an OK or it's an open X30 platform or whatever the case may be. One day, definitely not ever going to happen soon, but something to get some more manufacturers involved would be nice, because guys like these gentlemen here all deserve a lot of their stuff for free, because they're that talented and they put that.
amen. I'm just kidding.
He wasn't talking about you.
I think we'll see OK within the next
I think
couple
that's
years
the
in the U.S.
Really?
Because
No, you
always
won't.
see the United States. We're always about
No
4 to
shot,
5
bro.
years behind on the rest, like on European stuff. Like you saw with like the X30 stuff. The X30s had the straight pipe and the new electronics for the past, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. and that's about the time stamp we're at with how long the OK motor's been out. And I have a feeling we're gonna see it come over here as like a pro class. I mean, I kind of hope it doesn't, but
you won't see it because of
horrible
the IAME in the United States. They're not going to let you do it. Like the problem is like I say never, but in the years that I've raced, never seen KF been raced here, and that was before this. So I mean, I've been in for 13 years, never once seen KF over here. KZ is just now making it, and that's because of the void that was created. And I think that's not by like a lot of the shifter drivers want to race it, but I don't think it's like they're doing it just because there's no other option.
Pretty much.
Like, OK is not they're not going to let it because like you're just going to have either IAME supply all the OKs or Vortex supply all the OKs or TM supply all the OKs. You're not going to get like how it is in Europe where you actually have like different manufacturers and stuff. Like I agree with Race. I want to do it. That sounds really fun, but like it's not going to happen. They won't let it happen. None of these guys will let it happen. None of the series promoters will do that. They'll just keep their X30s and stuff and just keep going with it.
Yeah, you could do it now. You could buy one and race it, but they're going to exile you so quickly that it's going to be a waste of your own time and money.
It's going to take one of the it's going to take one of the other promoters to fail for it to even become an option.
Yeah, well, I saw Brandon go through 100 reads last weekend. Like,
yeah, we were actually testing at GoPro with Jake Walker because he's deciding to go over and race in Europe in the next few weeks. And yeah, we kept breaking reads I still don't know why. And we went through about 3 sets of tires in one day because that's how much tires the thing goes through. It goes through more tires than a shifter kart does. It's insane.
Let's see what other questions that we got. We did have a few more stuff come in. A lot of ones were comments about it. Trying to find anything more that we had here. We had another one calling Paulie a smart driver. So
respect.
Was this profile picture like a junior kart too?
What picture?
That profile picture.
Oh yeah.
Is that a junior driver?
That was that was a junior driver. Oh, here we go. This is a great one. So with CKNA possibly exceeding 400 karts for Grand Nationals, begs his question specifically for sprint karting. What is the largest kart race by kart count in 21 in the U.S. in the world? So I think Supernats is still going to have it beat, but I don't know if it beats it this year because they don't have the space.
Nope.
They've lost the overflow lot is what I'm told. The regular paddock is fine. The overflow lot that's kind of behind the road that comes in that would park the back marker guys that would be late to put their pit spots in, they don't have. So does that race go over 400? I don't know. Especially without
I think
South America.
The biggest one in the world is in the US it's probably that race, but in the world it would be the IAME Nationals. I mean IAME Grand Finals.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you have like 144 seniors, 140 juniors.
Yeah,
like you have almost. Well, he said U.S. and world.
You said both.
Oh, I didn't see. I
Smart driver.
Smart driver.
Yeah,
come on.
Hey, that doesn't mean I'm a smart person. All right.
This one's for you, Race. Asking if you're ready. We talk about Rock Island being
very important.
It's a once a year party where a race breaks out. So Joe Ruck, your buddy, was asking if your liver's ready for this week. Oh, that's the wrong one. Liver's ready for this weekend, Race? Is it?
Yeah, I've been practicing a lot at these other go-kart tracks. The one beautiful thing about not racing is you get to drink a lot. So, yeah, I'm ready to rock. See if we can get it going.
I think me and Brandon should make a special appearance in the K.
Oh,
you guys absolutely
don't
should.
Remind me, Race, you have been called out actually by the MPG Motorsports guys. Chase Jones wants to go at you at 100cc at Rock Island. What's it going to take for you to throw something together in 24 hours?
Yeah, that's already kind of been a plan. This year they added 2 King of the Rock classes, which is now 100cc open. So I was looking at the old KT over there, thinking about her, but I think I might throw a K together for that. And then they have another King of the Rock class, which is the 206 class. So I've been contemplating it'd be kind of cool to go for like a triple crown thing that Christian's trying to put together. So I don't know, we'll see.
Right. And that's another thing kind of piggybacking off what we talked about before where, you have multiple kind of headline class. Ultimately, King of the Streets is a headline class, but at least now there's 2 other ones for those 2 engine formats. That's a cool way to do it. I think in the right taste does it right, you know?
Well, I think that's how we get guys like Paulie and Brandon and Austin over there eventually and put on a good show. So give them some incentive. Give them
I
a
still
title.
don't know how I
right?
feel about like the open like shifter, like the classes they've had open for a long time. That's fine, keep those. But to add 100cc and make it open, as well as there was a open tag I ran like the last time I was there. I ended up having to take out like 5 Ital car drivers in the first turn because they had a motor that nobody else could get, and I only got 4 of them, so I finished second. But for the 100cc, I mean, to have a VLR, a KA, and a KT, I mean, if you show up with anything but a KT, like you're showing up to a gunfight with a knife. So I don't know, really, considering the KT is just as fast with the pipe as X30. I don't understand.
No, it's not.
Oh,
When the hell have you driven one of
Austin,
those?
what KT100 are you talking about?
With the pipe?
No, not at a big track. At Rock Island, that thing's got like a little bit of bottom, but no.
Dude,
no chance.
at Lone Star Grand Prix, when they used to have that race down here, we did the same, or I did the same exact lap time as the best X30 driver, and at the time he was good. The guy, whoever that kid was good, and we did the same exact lap time, and we were spending like 18 grand or some shit like that.
Oh, so you had to cheat it up, Yamaha.
Oh yeah, bro.
Oh, yeah, bro.
No, but I mean, like, I just don't understand. In my personal opinion, driving Yamaha, Brandon, you might even know too. Driving Yamaha, I mean,
I only drove it with the can, so I don't know.
right? So it was dog water, but I mean, I think with the pipe, it's not even going to be close. And if it's considered open, then there's no weight difference. That
I don't know. Usually,
I thought about
there's
doing it.
Seconds. Really?
Yeah, I'm still debating it because I think what weekend is it?
It's this
It's
weekend.
next weekend.
Or is it
Yeah,
This
so
weekend, isn't
it's
it?
Yeah,
on my
upcoming,
birthday,
sorry.
basically.
this upcoming weekend? Yeah, you've got 6 days.
You better leave
it's
now.
on my birthday, and I haven't. I was thinking about doing it, but it's just one of those things because still got that same cheated up Yamaha in the
Just bring them
garage.
both.
Yeah, well,
I'd go if somebody hooked it up, but I don't know.
well, that's I would make. I don't want to make C. Jones feel bad, man.
No, that's right. Respectful to Chase.
Right.
Ashton Woon, who is an up-and-coming cadet driver, asked, who has the most race wins out of everyone? That is a really good question. I don't even
Probably
know if these guys
Xander.
could...
Then, man,
Dude,
For sure, Zan.
my junior GT1 indoor rental karting championship goes on all you guys. All right.
I've got a
These
chicken
are all
wing
the trophies
contest
that I have. I
champions.
think I have like 2 other national plaques, and that's about it. And then this was a 3rd place. But hey, guess what, guys? In this race, I beat Brandon and Paulie. So
what are they wreck?
Yup.
no, actually,
Oh,
God.
What were you
you beat us
racing?
at Ocala.
yeah, at Ocala,
I
the
remember
easiest
that,
track on the
yeah.
national circuit.
An X30?
I remember that.
And
I went through
X30,
four.
that was
I went
X30,
through
yeah.
4 go-karts that weekend.
Oh yeah. Oh, all right. That was the KR. Yeah.
Yeah, you both were on KR. I was on OTK.
Makes sense.
And then after that race, Brandon quit KR and went OTK. So he was like, man.
So did I.
I do remember Brandon on some like weird go kart at that race.
Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah, I was on KR3 or whatever
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
I remember that.
Brandon used
Yeah,
to
that was
build
the
a
weirdest
go
go-kart.
kart every Friday night. Maybe it was Thursday night. Every single time.
I would be on 3 different go-karts throughout the weekend.
So we got to answer this question somehow, right?
I don't know how we answer that one. I
I
mean,
don't
Brandon has
Who's
like
got the most sitting behind them?
oh.
Yeah, those are all
Race doesn't
fucking
get
club.
bit.
Those are all club trophies. I
How are you going to tell
It's
me
still
that
counts.
one 69-cent trophy is different than another 69-cent trophy, bro?
Those are the ones with the holographic blue and shit wrapped around them that you get at a club.
Like,
I got plenty of those too.
I got plenty of
Nah,
helmets in my garage I could throw up here.
yeah, right.
Oh man.
Although the
I
one,
think this
kind
one
of-
takes the cake.
except for maybe race, is that big one right in the middle, right behind Paulie.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Oh
Yeah.
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 That
Well,
might be
I
the better
won,
finish
but
in
I
there.
I won mine in a semi-pro class. We don't. That's like a half. Cut it in half. We can
Oh
count
well,
that.
apparently KA is a semi-pro class
Oh,
according to everybody.
yeah, so did Paulie.
Rider respect.
So
Yeah,
did
that's
Paulie.
what I got told after I
There he
won.
goes.
They said,
Oh.
K doesn't
All right.
matter.
I'm a big driver, but I have a big heart, and it's all shattered because they talk bad about KA.
Yeah, take my ball and go home.
Austin trying to see if I had a drop.
I don't know. I would. Ashton,
Loki.
we appreciate you tuning in. I would say Race is probably up there just by number of years, because I'd say Race and Brandon have a good amount of wins on like a bunch of different races when they ran like full time. I mean, Ryan, you have a good amount of wins under your belt too, right? But you didn't race nearly as much as I think probably they did growing up. I mean, you raced club races, but
yeah, I did like state stuff. I never like the first time I went like full time national racing was like 2016.
Yeah,
that year was like the first time I ever like invested all my like time and stuff to go national racing. So it's been yeah.
So I'd probably say a toss up between Brandon or Race, and you'd be definitely counting a lot of chickens to try and figure out who is top on both. But at the end of the day, obviously, all 5 of these guys are really, really good. And hey, Chris made it in. Hey, here we go.
Yeah,
Chris Stockman is in.
My boy.
Oh man!
Nah,
You got another one too here. Austin, yeah, he loves you, man.
What's that gay emoji he's using?
Hey, bro.
Oh man, Paulie, how can we not make it through a show without you getting us canceled, bro? We're gonna have to cut that one out. Oh gosh. All right. Well, Paulie already was the first guy to cuss on our live stream at GoPro, so it's only fitting.
I had to.
Nonetheless, any closing comments any of you guys got here before we wrap things up? Let's see. A few more coming in.
Any of y'all have a hookup on some Jenny Craig?
Something to get ready for Super Nats? Yeah. See, Ryan's quiet right now because he's laxatives.
Ryan's starving. He wants to go eat dinner.
I'm ready to go eat, so I'm like, don't say anything else, and they won't ask you a question.
Yeah, I'm opposite. I can't eat until Super Nets, so enjoy whatever you're having for dinner.
Well, I think I will answer. Somebody did say about the offset gloves. I think Chris is pretty much done with the testing them all out, and it should be pretty soon, I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the offset glove drop is going to be coming soon. It should.
There's a lot of test drivers for that.
Yeah. You know, our first ever partner. Big ups to him. But no, yeah, I think the offset glove should be coming out here in the fall. Hopefully he can get them out before Super Nats. I know he's, like Paulie said, he's pretty far along with them and design stuff too.
Damn, do all of y'all have clothing, or not clothing, but like apparel help? Offset minus whatever the fucking.
I can get sponsors.
I will say the offset suits are pretty nice though.
Yeah. Race ran out of sponsors, so he just made a sponsor.
I had to start making them.
Yeah, but
Brandon, what do you think about the suit?
Brandon or offsets?
I haven't got mine yet.
Oh,
they look nice.
Yeah, they're pretty comfortable.
Yeah, and then Ryan was minus. So yeah, we'll have to do like a team of like the sponsored guys, like team minus versus team offset. I was joking about it at Ocala. I'd like to do a picture lineup for that.
And then me and Race will be team independent.
Team independent.
No.
Well,
Race Factory.
I'm selling my own shit over here.
Yeah.
Oh well. Shit. All right. I'll be team eBay.
No, you be team Truly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for this extended episode of KC Happy Hour. Thank you to Race Liberante and Austin Osborne for joining us. We'll have some more guests rotating in and out over the next few weeks while we enjoy the offseason. We're going to let Ryan go and finally eat.
Thank you.
And we're just going to kick him out now early because we're happy to do that early.
Man, I was going to start a timer to see how quick he left this time.
And we'll hang around with everybody else. But as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you guys next Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern. My name's Daniel Columbus. Everyone here with KC Happy Hour. Again, we will see you guys next week.